like, fuck this shit. We're going to just sell all of our belongings and we're going to travel around Australia. And we're going to figure out what we're going to do and leave hospitality.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Heart Media podcast. Today's guest is Zoe Birch of Greasy Zoe's. Really cute 8-seater restaurant, one of the first micro restaurants in Melbourne. She was so fantastic to talk to. We went through everything, her life. She's done a lot of interesting things. One of the pioneers of the tiny restaurant kind of scene in Melbourne. Really down to earth. She had a lot to say. It was really exciting. I think you're definitely gonna enjoy this one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one personally. I liked, her approach to life and lifestyle and, building a restaurant that suits the life you want to build, and it's not all about the money. How is it like to run a restaurant with your husband and, a small restaurant? And we spoke a lot about hobbies and produce and life. She really have such an incredible story, and we were so invested in it. And she's so genuine, and we love you, Zoe.
We love you, Zoe.
So yeah, we hope you enjoy it, guys. Thanks.
Like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, watching, however you're consuming this. Big love to you. Yeah. Of camping, you're like quite connected to the land. You grew up in country.
Yeah.
In Trouble.
Well, I started my apprenticeship in Travel. I grew up in Seymour.
Seymour.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
So
So-
that's
And you
on
grew
the
up-
way to Sydney.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
And it's on the way to Mount Buller, I think. So
Oh, yeah.
people sort of tend to drive through there on the way
How
to
many
the
hours
snow.
from Melbourne?
From Melbourne,
Yeah.
about 2 hours.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Not that far out.
it's not too bad.
On
yeah.
a farm or?
Not on a farm, just
Yeah.
I mean, on a bit of land, like 1.2 acres or something like
It's
that.
a lot more land than what
Yeah, like it's pretty
us
big.
city kids are
Yeah,
used to.
totally, yeah. So yeah, grew up in the bush. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, and now
um,
I live in the bush now too. So yeah,
you like it there.
I think so.
It's
Yeah.
your happy place.
I think so.
Yeah, beautiful.
So how did you kind of like fall in love with cooking?
Well, my mum just cooked all the time, and she was the sort of person where we wouldn't buy anything; we would grow everything. So growing up on such a sort of largish plot of land, I guess, we used to grow all of our vegetables and fruits. There was an orchard
Awesome.
and stuff,
Yeah.
and we would make everything. So we weren't allowed to buy tomato sauce; we would make it. We couldn't buy bread; we'd have to make the bread.
So
So
cool.
it was just like cooking all the time, always interesting smells and flavors going on.
Yeah.
So it was just sort of inevitable.
Mm.
Wow.
I think that a lot of people don't realize because we've become so accustomed to just being able to obviously buy everything from the supermarket, which is great in many ways for efficiency of lifestyle. But I was the same. We had a bit of land
Mm.
in Ivanhoe though, not far
Doesn't
out.
matter.
But we had so many vegetable plots, and Mum was always there. We had like an apricot tree and a plum tree, and we were just growing stuff all the time. And if you actually want to eat the things that you grow and make the most out of them, then you got to be cooking like all the time,
Yeah.
and preserving things and
Oh, yeah.
cooking them and making jams and like spreads and things like that.
It's not cheaper on that scale to have a veggie garden. So if you're putting that amount of effort into it, and it's a huge amount of effort, it's almost like another job, you've got to make the most of it. So yeah, can't waste it.
It's worth it though. Like it's
Yeah.
different.
Mm.
What were some of your like fondest memories growing up in the garden with your mum? Or dad? I don't know if they were both doing it.
I suppose we were just outside all the time. Like literally I was at home last night and it was such a hot day yesterday. And I was outside and I just looked at the sky and it was twilight and there were dragonflies. You know, it was
Wow.
sort of that temperature and there were dragonflies in the sky. And I was just like, oh, this is what it was like when I was a kid. Like I was just outside all the time. You know,
The
that's what we did.
nostalgia.
I don't remember being inside. You know, we were just outside rolling around in the dirt. And that's like a really fond memory of growing up, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so no phones, no devices.
No, that's right. Yeah. Oh, we
Okay.
had we had Nintendo.
Okay, yeah,
And you
yeah,
would have played
yeah.
it a lot as a
We
kid as
definitely
well.
played it a lot. Yeah.
Do you try to pass that to your kids?
Yeah, so we're pretty lucky. We live just before the Yarra Valley on a 21-acre bush block, so pretty massive, and
Cool.
it's just bush too, so it's not cleared, so it's like trees everywhere. So we try and spend heaps of time outside because we've got so much land. So yeah, I guess so.
And what are the kind of like some of the things that you know say or try to instill into your children's into your children's like every day? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I suppose
That's
we're always
in relation to that, yeah.
well, we try to be outside as much as possible. So they're very much bush kids. You know, we're talking before about camping. They're outside pretty often. But I think that what Lachlan and I try to do is we cook all the time. Like it's a really big thing in our house. So we've got wicking beds at where we are because we're on tank water, so it's pretty tricky having a proper garden. And we've actually got a protected bush block, which means we can't actually directly grow into the ground. So it's a pretty sort of special place. So we've got these wicking beds, and that's like a big thing in our house. It's like, let's go outside, let's check them, let's pick the things, so it's constant, I would say, with the kids. Like it's always food, it's always growing, it's always outside, it's always bush related. So I think that, they're
They
just
feel
growing up.
involved.
Yeah. It's constant involvement. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
awesome.
I love that.
But they're also very involved with you
Yes.
and Lachlan person.
Oh,
like,
totally.
All the time, you guys are together.
Yeah, that's right.
And how do you manage that with kind of the restaurant? Because I know I've spoken to a lot of chefs before, and they've, said that when they get home, they don't like to cook too much. But you're saying you're cooking all the time. You've got the restaurant as well. How do you manage it?
I guess it's like there's no way to avoid it. I think it's probably a little bit different for me being a female, being the chef in our restaurant, owning the restaurant and having kids. It's totally unavoidable. So, that's one of the reasons why we created the restaurant, because it was like, well, we're going to create a space where we aren't working all the time and we can have a family. So these little girls have literally grown up in the kitchen, from 4 weeks after I had my first child. We were back in the kitchen and she just kind of grew up on the floor in the kitchen, so they're just we're pretty lucky in that we can take breaks, we can have school holidays off, and they are actually around us all the time. So it I don't know, we've kind of molded the restaurant to work for us in that regard. Yeah.
That's the beauty of having your own business.
Yeah.
I was like that too. My parents had businesses and restaurants growing up, so we were just always there and around, and that's like all the memories I have as a child. It was fun. It was so fun. But just always at the businesses.
Yeah,
which is a great thing.
Yeah, I suppose there's an element of it that could be seen as being not great, but then I think it's nice to give that example to your kids as well. Like, this is where we work, this is what we do, and we're hardworking, and you can achieve X, Y, Z if you follow suit. I don't know. I think maybe it's just a good example.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I also think that, opposed to a lot of people maybe that would work somewhere where they can't have their kids with them all the time, maybe like you work longer hours, but you spend more time with your family, opposed to you work shorter hours, but you basically they've got to be in daycare, etc., etc.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like at the moment we're used to just kind of putting kids away like as soon as possible, and just putting them into like a care or like a kindergarten type thing. But I don't think that we're meant to be like that. I think we're meant to be around our parents for a lot longer than that.
I guess it just depends, like a lot of people are kind of stuck in and they find it really hard to break that path they're on to accommodate their children. And I think you literally said it. We built the restaurant to work for us. So it's a big step, to take a risk to do a small restaurant to accommodate, So they
Built
had
the
to
lifestyle that you want.
prioritize it.
Yeah, that's right. We're
awesome.
we're also super lucky. Like, I don't want to bang on about kids for too long, but we're also very lucky in that we have a very big support network around us. So our kids get to hang out with us at work and see what we do, but we've got this really beautiful community around us. So we work we only operate 3 days, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and they're nights as well. So Lachlan and I are both there. So our kids are very lucky in that they get to hang out with their friend, like go to their friends' houses, or their grandparents look after them, and they kind of get moved around. So they're around adults all the time, which I
awesome.
actually think is a really good thing.
Mm.
So they're sort of
yeah.
quite, they started talking from a young age, and they're fairly sophisticated kids. So I feel like it's good for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Back to your life story.
Yes.
Still very keen to hear about this one. So you came from just Ainan. Was in trouble for us. So you grew up in the kitchen, and you had a bit of an affinity for food and everything. And then at what point were you like, okay, I want to become a chef? Is that something that happened?
Yeah, I suppose so. I feel like I was just cooking all the time. It was what I did at school. And then I got my first job as I thought it was going to be as a kitchen hand when I was 15. And it wasn't as a kitchen hand. Well, I suppose it was a kitchen hand, but it wasn't washing dishes. It was literally helping the chef with prep at this resort in Trawool, which is near Seymour. And it was super hands-on. It was like I was preparing all the food and I was doing service, and I sort of went, oh, okay, I didn't realize it would be like this. I just assumed I'd be like a shit kicker.
Okay, so you
just,
liked it.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was
Okay.
really good. And I was super lucky because I feel like at 15 years old, not a lot of kids get the opportunity to actually work in a kitchen and do service. And I don't know, it came out of nowhere. I was just very lucky that I got it. And I already had a lot of skills because I did so much cooking at home. So it was kind of just a really natural thing. And then it got to the point where it was like, well, what else would I do? Like, it just sort of feels like this is what I'm going to do.
Feels right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also.
But so when you got the kitchen hand job, was it to get a job, or was it to start on a path in maybe hospitality?
It was just a job,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it came up at my school. They advertised
Right.
at the local school, and it was like kitchen hand job, X amount of hours a week. And I applied and went there, and just instantly they were like, oh, this kid can do stuff, And I instantly got it. And it started off as like one evening a week, and then I ended up, it was like 32 hours a week. Like, it was like a full-time job, and I was doing school, and I did school the whole time. So I did my year 11 and 12, and I worked full-time, essentially.
Ow. Just
After school and on the
day.
weekends.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was just busy and they needed help, and,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed it. So I was like burning the candle at both
Making
ends.
some money.
Yeah, making some cash.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
How did you manage, like, with school and everything? Did school take a bit of a dip, or?
Yeah, so I was, yes and no. Like, I didn't want to finish school, but I did, and I did okay. Like, it was fine, but, yeah, look, it was fine. I just wanted to stay at school to be around my friends, I suppose. But, I was like 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. Like, you don't notice when you're that young. You sort of just get through it. Obviously, as you get older, doing hours like that, it's like, how did I ever do this?
So true.
Yeah.
So bulletproof when you're a kid.
Yeah, oh my goodness,
it's
yeah,
insane.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's sort of just how it happened.
So
Yeah.
finished school and then
Yeah, and then I worked, just kept on working at that place for a little bit. And then eventually I moved to Melbourne and I got a job at the Middle Brighton Baths, and yeah.
What was that job?
So I was just working, so I knew, so my path in hospitality wasn't so simple because I already had quite a few skills, and I did an apprenticeship, but I didn't do an apprenticeship in that there was a local TAFE in my area, and they kind of went, oh yeah, you're fine, and they just ticked me off. So I didn't have to do trade school. They were like, yeah, yep, you've got all the skills, tick. You just need to do your hours, essentially. So the guy that was heading this TAFE worked with a chef called John Leff. I don't think you guys will know him, but back in the day, he was a really well-known chef, like older chef. And he was heading the Middle Brighton Baths at the time. And this guy was like, I'll contact John and you can go work there. And I was like, okay, I didn't, I've been living in Seymour. Like, I had no idea about Melbourne, a big city. And yeah, I just came to the, Brighton, fancy, and started working there at like a proper, restaurant, like it had one hat and I had to learn about all that stuff. And then I just started doing, like these 60-hour weeks and yeah, and I was like,
grind.
I would have been like 18, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's an early start. I like it.
Yeah, I started really young.
What
yeah.
did you? What was the original decision to move to Melbourne? Why'd you move here?
I always wanted to get away from Seymour.
Okay.
It's a bit, it's like a regional town.
You were
Yeah.
that
I
way,
think-
and you're like, I'm destined for greater
Yeah,
things.
well, I think a
Yes.
lot of people growing up in that area are like,
Yeah.
I'm going to leave and I'm going to, go to Melbourne or whatever. So it was always on the cards that I would
Yeah.
just move on.
Yeah.
I mean, a bit weird or a bit random to move to Brighton, of all places, from, I suppose, country
Seymour,
Victoria.
yeah.
But
So you lived in Brighton as
Yeah,
well?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
yeah,
But I
like
mean,
from
I guess
this like from literally the country to the beach.
the beach.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with like, all those fancy houses and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But it was really good. And I
Okay.
learned a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was
What was
great.
it like working in a one hat kitchen at that age?
Yeah, it was cool. Like, it was a massive I had to learn a lot, because I was sort of in the country cooking and doing my thing, but I didn't know anything about the industry. So then I came to Melbourne and I started working this one hat joint, and then all of a sudden it was like I had to learn about it all because I didn't know anything about it, as in, the hat system and the media stuff. And so all of a sudden I was just like a sponge, It's like going and eating out in places in Melbourne and learning everything. It was actually amazing. It's
So
amazing to
cool.
think about it,
Okay.
to think about being so
Naive.
so I know, yeah, and having absolutely no clue about anything.
Yeah.
Were people kind to you or
So kind,
Okay.
because I'm very sort of, I think I'm fairly genuine and I just do what I'm told. So people
I would
love
be
that.
kind to Zoe. I just want to put that out there. If I
She's
met
like
Zoe,
I'm just like a puppy dog. I'm like, give me knowledge and I'll do it.
So
people,
sweet.
I remember this really scary Kiwi chef that I was working with. I remember him leaving, and I'd worked with him for like a year, and I was just always the sort of person that worked really hard, came in early, left last, and just did everything I was told and never like argued, And I remember him saying to me, "Never change." I was like, okay,
That's
good.
a good
She
sign.
said, okay. All right, I'll see what I can do about it.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, people were really kind, and I kind
That's
of,
fine.
I sort of, went to restaurants where I, essentially never got really treated that poorly because I was the sort of person that just worked hard and I just did what I was told and I went above and beyond. And
Do you think at that early age, maybe the city changed you much? Like, did you feel like a bit of a difference between, I don't know, the person that you were in Seymour and the person that you were in Melbourne?
oh, totally, yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, I, mature. Well, I was already pretty mature starting working so young, but yeah, no, it changed me, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like at 18, you really want to be kind of like everyone else.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
And like
yeah.
if you're in the city, you kind of want to be like the city.
Yeah,
People too.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
So when was your first like chef role?
Well, that was my first chef role.
So that was like
yeah,
a
yeah, it
okay.
was just like commie or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When
And-
did your partner come into the mix?
So I met Lachlan when I was working in a place called the Courthouse, which is in North Melbourne.
That was where you worked after Brighton,
No,
right?
I mean I've had a few. I've worked in a few places,
Right.
and I did a little bit of travel. But yeah. So I was working at this place called the Courthouse. I don't know how many years later. And Lachlan was working there, and Lachlan did both front of house and kitchen, and I met him there.
Okay.
Mm.
So
Tell us the story. Come on. You met
Oh,
him.
he's in the kitchen. Like, it's impossible to meet people. When you work in hospitality, it's impossible to meet people other than the people that you work with.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, he was working in the kitchen. He was an apprentice at the time. And we're only...
So
We're
you were
only
his boss at the time.
Well, yes. Yeah, I was
Right.
actually. And we're only
Still
three...
his boss.
We're three... well, I mean, we're 50-50 owners. But yes, I probably am the boss. And I am only 3 months older. Like, saying he was an apprentice makes it sound super weird.
That's all right. That was a long time ago. We understand.
That's right. Well, I was 24 when I was working at the Courthouse, and I actually took over as the head chef at the Courthouse.
Awesome.
So I started working at the Courthouse when Julian Hills was in charge,
The Jules.
who you met today.
From today.
Yes,
The
that's
Jules.
right. Who's from
Yeah.
the head
Owner of Navi.
owner
Yeah.
of Navi.
Yeah.
And I also worked with Jules at the Middle Brighton Baths as well.
You and Jules
And-
go way back.
Yeah, and then at
Okay.
another restaurant too. So I've known Julian since I was literally 18 years old.
Wow.
So I'm 37 now, so I've known him for almost 20 years. So yeah, so and that's why I started working at the Courthouse, is because Julian was working there. And then Julian left and I left, and then Lachlan and I went back and I was in charge of it. You know, I was
The head chef.
Yeah.
Was
Okay.
that your first head chef role?
Well, yeah, but yeah, I would say yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And how did you kind of approach that? Did you feel like you needed to like leave your mark there or do something? Like, what were you inspired by your past experiences working in, you know, hatted restaurants, and you wanted to kind of follow that? Like, did you have a bit of a pursuit of excellence type of thing going on?
So I had a pretty good relationship with the owners because I'd already worked with them previously. And I suppose at that point I'd kind of honed in on a style, which is like homemade, I guess, is my style, is I like to make everything. So I started doing that there. And at this point, this is going to sound really nasty, but the Courthouse was really on this downward trajectory. It had two hats at one stage. It was the first gastro pub in Melbourne to get two hats. And so it was like up there for a long time. And then it just kind of went on this downward trajectory when Stephen Burke, the head chef, left. And you know, even with Julian, like, it was just an unfortunate thing, not because of Julian, but just it was just an unfortunate thing.
Julian really let us down on that one.
There's a lot of things.
No, just pubs weren't in fashion anymore. Like, there was this one period where like pubs in Melbourne were like super in fashion for being fine dining restaurants when John Lachlan was at the Good Food Guide. And then when he left, they just weren't popular anymore, right? So it was just going like this. And then I sort of came in and took over, and there'd been a couple of dodgy chefs there after Julian, and then I came in and we did kind of go up, and it was great. And I kind of, you know, came up with this style of cooking. Like, I started doing the sourdough there, and, you know, this is a long time ago too. Like, this would have been like 14 years ago as well. So, you know, everyone was buying their bread in from like De Chirico and stuff like that, you know. And then so we started doing the butter and we started doing the bread and all this sort of homemade stuff. And we lifted the level, I would say. And then the owner sold it.
Cool. Did
Yeah.
you get a hat in your time that you were there? Or?
No, we got a 14, well, it went right down and we got up to 14.5.
Right.
And then they sold it. And so
That's
we all,
cool. Okay.
yeah, which was a bit sad, but, you know, whatever.
Okay. So what happens next?
So then Locke and I, we did some random jobs, and then we moved out to the Yarra Valley.
Okay.
What
What was the reason you moved?
I think we just needed a change, and we really craved a sense of community as well. I think when you live out in Melbourne, like, you know, because we were in Brunswick for ages,
Yeah.
I feel like we just really wanted, because Lachlan's from Warrandyte. Do you guys know where
Yeah,
that
of
is?
course. Yeah.
And he grew
What's it
up
do?
there. It's an awesome place.
Yeah.
Teskey Brothers, home of the Teskey Brothers and
Yeah.
stuff. And so he grew up there and then hung out in Melbourne for a while, as did I. And we kind of just craved community, which we didn't feel like. We had a lot of friends out here and we knew a lot of people, but we just didn't feel like we had that community. So we were like, we're going to move back out your way, Lachlan's way. And so we did.
But sorry. So like you said, you didn't feel that sense of community here.
Mm.
What made you think that you will find that in the Yarra Valley?
I just, you know, that sort of walk down the street and know everyone type thing. I think we just craved a bit of that, you know, like a bit of a smaller
Town. Okay.
Yeah.
Small towns hit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, it's a small population. Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think
But
we needed not concrete city anymore. I think both coming from the bush, we kind of just needed to go back to that maybe. Like, we just
Peace.
had enough and we needed almost a bit of separation from the city. You know, we could have always come back, but luckily we just really like it
You
out
got to
there.
stay.
But we just needed a break. Something had to change, I suppose.
Still no kids at that stage?
No kids.
Okay.
It's cool you guys have a bit of a similar trajectory and then you also found each other working as chefs in that restaurant too. That's really fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like-minded people, yeah.
And also this whole thing kind of, I think, really screams of what you really love about cooking, maybe, that you want to have kind of like a more intimate and like home style experience, because that's what you kind of grew up on and what really formed your passion for cooking in the first place. So it's so fantastic that you get to emulate that kind of experience in your restaurant.
Oh, absolutely.
But I read somewhere that you were fed up with something,
Yeah.
maybe in the Melbourne hospitality industry.
Well, we
Can you
moved
speak
out.
on that?
Well, we moved out to the Yarra Valley, right? And we got, I'm not going to say where it was, but we got a job in the Yarra Valley, and we just got, hospitality is hard. It's long hours. It's high pressure. It's all that stuff, right? Shitty wage, I suppose, to a degree. And so we moved out to the Yarra Valley, and then we got this job, and it was a big job, Locke and I both, and we just got treated like crap, essentially, and it was just horrible. And so we kind of walked away from that, being like, oh, I don't know if we can keep working in hospitality anymore. Like, this
what
is
was so horrible about it?
Oh, it was just big hours, and
Control.
I mean, the owners were just not great. They weren't, you hire a sort of a head chef and you tell them what you want, and then they go away and do it, and the owners were just there, and it was not my vision, it was their vision, and it was just really hard. And it was quite a toxic kitchen environment as well, left from the last chef. And it was just a matter of, the only way we're going to fix this culture is if we literally start again, if we literally fire everyone and start again. And it was just never going to happen, so I just left. And it was just really hard and heartbreaking. And so we sort of walked away from that experience being like, maybe hospitality is just not for us. Like, I feel like we've had some bad luck and we're just tired. And then, so we were going to just buy a caravan and just travel around and try and figure out what we wanted to do.
So we're going on a
This is like something's got to change.
Yeah, it was like a life-changing thing. It was like,
Yeah.
fuck this shit. We're gonna just sell all of our belongings and we're gonna travel around Australia and we're gonna figure out what we're gonna do, and leave hospitality. Like, it was like, we'll just figure out something else.
Okay.
And then Lachlan's mum, Kylie, at the time was a baker, like a really small micro baker, and she had a bakery in Carlton North. And she was selling her bread at this organic fruit and veg shop in Hurstbridge. And we were sort of talking to her about, how we were feeling and stuff. And she's a really diplomatic person. And she sort of...
Great for advice.
Well, she's great, yeah.
Shout out.
She's excellent. And she sort of listened to us and went, why don't you just start a restaurant at this place in Hurstbridge? And we were like, what are you talking about? And she was like, this place in Hurstbridge, the fruit and veg shop, they're closed and the space is for rent. Why don't you just go do something there? And we sort of went, okay, whatever. And then we went and had a look at it, and it was just this tiny little fruit and veg shop, 6 by 7 meters, very small. And we sort of went in and had a look and went, we could do this. Like, people think we're crazy because it's so small, but we could just do it with the two of us, and we wouldn't have to worry about any of the problems that we've had in other kitchens with staff, training staff and then them leaving and then, whatever, all the stuff that you deal with.
Was that something you've seen before at that time?
In the Yarra Valley, it is so hard getting staff. I feel like...
I'm talking about like a small restaurant.
Never. So I had actually, I will say that I had worked...
We should put that in your bio, a small as restaurant.
Small as. Yeah, we should do that. Change it on my Instagram. Small as. Not really, but I had actually worked at a restaurant called Maricot. Do you guys know that? It was this really cool restaurant in Northcote. And I'm trying to think how big it was. It would have been like maybe 30 people, which was tiny at the time.
Whereabouts in Northcote?
I can't remember where it was.
Okay.
That's all right.
It's such a long time ago. But anyway, it was a tiny restaurant, and it was just the owner and me and a kitchen hand in the restaurant. I'm trying to think how long I worked there, like maybe like 8 months or something. And then there was just 2 front of house, and I remember really liking that.
So small.
It was
Chill out.
tiny. The
Comfortable.
kitchen was so small, but it was great. Like the concept was really good, and
I like that.
we really turned we would turn tables and stuff. So I suppose maybe there was a little bit of that in my head at the time. But yeah, we sort of looked at the space and went, you know what, let's just do it. And we can just do it. The 2 of us, we'd have to worry about any of the other crap. And we literally just wrote a list of everything that we hated about all the restaurants we'd ever worked at, and, you know, all the opposite of that we wanted to do in our restaurant. And in where we are, which is the Nillumbik, Hurstbridge, that's the Shire, there's just like organic fruit and veg farms everywhere. So it was like, well, we can just go to the farms, and we can just pick the produce, and we can just change the menu all the time, and we can just use all the most expensive produce because we're getting it from these small organic farmers and these family-owned businesses. So we just like wrote this list of stuff that we wanted to do, and we just did it, and we have been doing it for like almost 8 years now.
So that's how Greasy Zoe started.
Yeah,
Zoe
literally.
started.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like, what is everything that we don't like about hospitality up to this point, and how can we do it completely differently in our own venue?
Okay.
And it was also like, you know, if we do this and it doesn't work, it's fine, because we know you know, it doesn't work, that's fine. But we have to give it a go, because we can't keep on complaining about hospitality. Do you know
Without
what I
actually
mean?
making a change.
Yeah, that's right.
What's like 5 or so of the top things that were on the list of things that you don't want to do in your own restaurant?
We didn't want to use big suppliers, so we only wanted to get the produce.
And the reason you don't want to use big suppliers, because obviously like something that you don't want to do that other restaurants do is because
We did wastage.
yeah.
And we wanted to support local businesses. So we wanted to know where the money was going. So we wanted to be like, we're going to get chickens from the chicken farm, Heidi's chicken farm up in Don Valley. We want to get fruit and veg from Warren down in Strathune. We want to go to the farm. We want to meet the people. We want them to be our friends. Like, we want to actually know where this stuff's coming from.
Connection.
We want the connection, and we want the customers to feel that connection. We want this to be a special thing. So, you know, yeah, so connection, you know, knowing where everything comes from. It was really important to us that we could just have time off. Like if, you know, you sacrifice so much being in hospitality, it was like, if it's such and such's wedding, we can book that out. You know, we can go. It's okay. It's okay to have a weekend off, because I feel like, especially when you're young in hospitality, you work so many hours for free, and you do every weekend, you do every night, and you miss out on so much stuff. So for us,
I agree.
it was just like, no, we have to be humans. Like, we have to be able to live. So that was really important. And, you know, the menu being able to change. We didn't want a written menu, which we still don't have. So we wanted everyone to sit down, and for there to be no menu. You know, it's a set menu, obviously, but when you sit down, you don't know what you're getting. So that we can just sort of change it depending on
What you're feeling on the day.
Yeah. So there's, you know, it's a surprise as well, so it's really special.
Yeah.
Heaps of stuff like that. Yeah.
Was it scary,
cool.
like, to take such a step? First of all, it's your first business. Second of all, how many seaters at that time?
So when we first opened it was about 14 seats.
Okay.
It's a tiny venue, and we had like all the tables and chairs like really jammed in. It was scary for many reasons, because all of a sudden it was our own money, like, got to put your money where your mouth is type thing, you know.
Skin in the game.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, both being chefs, we didn't have a lot of money, so we were just like, you know, scraping everything together.
Let's figure it out.
But also it was very hard for us, because we had to get a liquor license, because the fruit and veg shop didn't have one. And it took us 9 months to get a planning permit.
Gosh.
Or 10 months to get a planning permit, and then 2 months to get our liquor license. So literally a year to the day that we signed the lease was when we actually opened. And that was fucking scary.
So were you paying rent?
Yes, we were paying everything.
Oh my God.
We were paying rent, council rates, water rates, like we were literally name registration, like just think of everything you require to have a hospitality business. We were paying that. So like I was working like 3 casual jobs, Lachlan was working like 2 casual jobs, and also like he would be there like as like the site manager as we were building it and stuff. So we're forking out all this money to not only build the venue but to pay for everything for a full 12 months. It was so scary.
Wow.
Incredibly stressful. Yeah.
What year was that?
So we signed the lease in 2016. So it was over the 2016 to 2017 period, so May. And then 8 months. And so then we opened on the 12th of May 2017. Yep, so 16 to 17. And then 8 months later I got pregnant with our first child. So we hadn't even been open a year. So full on.
Bro, this story, I'm loving this story. I'm so hooked.
Invested.
It's so full on.
Oh, Zoe.
Insane.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
and
so
then what was the emotion when you found out you were pregnant?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we were excited, but it was like, what the fuck are we gonna do? And everyone that we like, what are we gonna do? We haven't even been open a year, and it's really hard, you know. And then everyone we told were like, what the fuck are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do with the restaurant? And we were like, I guess we'll just keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's just a baby. They're only little.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess we'll just keep
Shouldn't be
doing
too
it.
hard.
Should be too hard.
Okay, so
Yeah.
when you gave birth and everything and you were pregnant and all that, like, how did you actually, like, just explain, I want to try to visualize you either being pregnant, cooking, but also, like, just having the child there and
Yeah, yeah,
cooking. How
yeah.
did it happen? Like,
So I feel like Lachlan and I are pretty, like, in terms of our personalities, I feel like we don't think too far into the future. So when, like, we kind of, like, live in the moment. So when I got pregnant, it was like, okay, we're just going to roll with this and hopefully it works out. So I just worked the whole time, you know, up until almost I went into labor. I just worked. And as we went through that 9-month period, it was just like everything kind of just fell into place. Like Lachlan's dad was like, oh, I'll babysit overnight time when you guys are at work. And we were like, excellent, tick. And then it was like, and then we took one day off. So at the time we were working 5 days a week. And then when we came back after I had Quinn, we went down to 4 days, and Lachlan's dad looked after Quinn while we were working overnight time.
So
and then
good.
she just kind of hung out in the restaurant, and yeah, we just literally rolled with it.
did you ever have to hire a chef to help?
No.
Never.
But very funny story. I had Quinn, and then I think she was like 4 months old, and Lachlan broke his collarbone. So it's just Lachlan and I at the restaurant. I'm in the kitchen on my
Lachlan.
own. He's out the front on his own. And
Okay.
he was fucking downhill biking, because that's what he does. He does downhill bike. And he fell off and broke his collarbone. And it was just
Jesus.
like, and Quinn was like 4 months old, and it was just like, what are we going to do?
What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
And so, funny story, Greg Malouf's brother Jeff came
Okay.
and worked in the restaurant for like 3 months out the front with Lachlan in a sling and helped us out.
That's so good.
It was really cool. Yeah. Yeah, it was
That's
amazing.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Downhill mountain biking is fucking scary.
Yeah, well, he's very good at it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually, to his credit, it wasn't his fault. Like a stick went through his wheel,
right.
and you know, and then it
Yeah.
came off.
Right.
But yeah, it was very like, it's just been a roller coaster, to be honest. So
Dude,
much
it's
shit's
such a
gone
roller
down.
coaster. Yeah. And then your second child's when?
Yeah, so so we went into the COVID. So we found out about COVID, and then everything got shut down, and which was horrible and stressful, and like we thought that we were just gonna lose our business, as I think most people did.
We were all there.
Of course.
Yeah, it was
It was
really
crazy.
full on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we we had our we were discussing earlier the beer system that we have, portable beer system. We just had that at our house, and we were just drinking beer all the time at our home, obviously,
Yeah.
you know, being very sad. And then we sort of cranked into gear and started doing the takeaway meals and stuff. And then I was exhausted because we were doing a lot of bread. We were baking a lot of sourdough. And now I've got an 8-tray electric oven at the restaurant. Oh no, I can cook 8 loaves of bread in our oven at the restaurant. And we were selling 150 to 200 loaves over 2 days at the restaurant. So, yeah, it was ridiculous.
So you
And
just
so I was working
I
all
thought
the
you were gonna
time.
say. I thought you were gonna say a week.
No,
And I was
no,
thinking,
no.
Oh, that's,
And
no.
that's also really fucking impressive.
It was ridiculous. We were selling so much bread and take-home meals and stuff. It was very, we were very busy, which was good. And I was just tired all the time because I was getting up so early. But actually I was pregnant and had been pregnant for 2 months and didn't know. Because I was so tired.
Yeah.
And so finally when we went to the hospital to get some stuff checked out, they were like, oh, how far along do you reckon you are? And I was like, 6 weeks. And they were like, well, how far along was I? I was like 17 weeks or something.
My God.
Yeah. So I lost like over 2 months. So I had been pregnant
crazy.
that whole time,
Right.
but didn't know because we were just so busy with the COVID
You
stuff.
just thought you're tired.
Yeah, I just thought I was exhausted, which I was, but
Mm.
actually also pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
wild.
it was a funny story.
I
Yeah.
want to actually ask a question before, because I know we're going to get way deeper into all of this. When you first, this is very interesting. Like when you first opened Greasy Zoe's in
2017.
2017,
Yeah.
all the way out there, what happens when you just open a place in the middle of like a small town?
It's actually a really good question.
Yeah.
So I suppose we were kind of lucky that it took. This is such a hindsight thing to say. It was kind of lucky it took a year for us to open because it created a lot of hype in the local community.
That's
So people were constantly just like, what are you doing? And what is it? And when are you opening? So people were very excited. So we were really busy when we first opened. But important to note that even though this is only, 8 years ago,
You're good.
even though it's only 8 years ago that we opened and we're only 45 minutes from the Melbourne CBD, Hurstbridge was like, they had no idea of what we were doing. They were just so like, what do you mean we can't have a bowl of chips?
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't do kids' meals? Like, it was just so different to what Hurstbridge had ever seen before. It was actually really hard first year and a half to 2 years that we opened. We had to cop a lot of shit from the local community. We had a lot of support, but we also copped a lot of people just being like, what do you do? And why do you do that? Like,
just bunch of
you know
Karens.
what I mean?
Because like I feel like also people that are living out there, they're used to a very certain way of life, and they don't have so much diversity in like everything.
Yeah.
People that live there, the food that they eat, all that kind of stuff. So, but I feel like once they, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like once they came in and they met you guys and they realized like how much of a personal experience and everything it was, you guys would become kind of like favorites of the town, right?
Oh, yeah,
Eventually.
totally. And look, there were a lot of people that came in and immediately were like, this is great. I don't have to drive into the city anymore. This is the sort of thing that we drive to go to. It's great that you're here now.
Yeah.
So we were pretty lucky that we were relatively busy when we first opened. But yeah, but we copped a lot of shit, and then eventually people came around to what we were doing and actually realized that we weren't, we had a lot of people, like we literally had people being like, go back to Brunswick where you came from. Like, it was full on. It was really full on. But I think that, like, it's just silly.
Go back
to Brunswick where you came from. What an insult.
Also, like, so crazy as well, because it's like, dude, you're just like them. You're from Seymour.
And it's 45 minutes away. Like, Brunswick is 45 minutes away. This is ridiculous. We're not in country Victoria. But, it was fine. And we had to build the confidence and those relationships. And I also think that a lot of people in the area, when they realised what we were doing was actually supporting the community and actually bringing people to the area, then they were like, they came around and actually understood that we weren't trying to, there wasn't gentrification happening in Hurstbridge. We weren't trying to change the area. But it was really hard when we first opened.
When did things started to go crazy for you? Like, in a good, crazy way?
So we had like someone from 3AW come in and do like a review, like the first review we got a couple months in, and that made a huge, like, this sounds really silly, but it made a massive difference. Like, we were really busy after that. And then we got our first review from The Age, maybe like 10 months in, and we got a hat. which was pretty crazy. Like
Incredible.
first
10
year.
months in.
Yeah,
First,
yeah.
That's fantastic.
And I was pregnant at the time, and I remember Jemima Cody came in, and I was so sick, and I felt so, because I was pregnant, and I had such bad morning sickness. I remember her sitting in the corner of the restaurant, reviewing us essentially, just being like, oh, like, oh, the food, like I can't even taste it, just feeling horrible. And yeah, she gave us a great review. She gave us 15, and it was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, it was insane. It was crazy. And then we had like,
Still got a hat though.
and then we had like Larissa Dubecki come in and she was doing Time Out at the time, and we just had all these reviews. Like, it just sort of did a bit of this, and then all of a sudden it was just really busy, and yeah,
That's so good.
it was really good.
And you started to see people visiting from Melbourne.
That's right, from all over. Yeah, so from the Yarra Valley, from Melbourne, and then just all across Victoria.
How did that feel like?
Oh, it was
after all
so
this?
cool.
Yeah.
But, you still don't really register it, I suppose. You just sort of like, you come to work and you do your thing, but then every now and then you have a moment where you're like, I can't believe people actually book to come into our restaurant. Like, even now, it's like we're very lucky in that we're very small, obviously, but we are just kind of full every month. We just do the month in advance. We're full. You don't think about it. But every now and then I'll sort of look at the booking and go, I can't believe, like, we're just full for 2 months. Like, I can't believe people actually book and come here. This is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to look back and reflect.
Oh,
You
yeah,
forget.
absolutely.
And I think like the longer that you do it for, the harder it is. But then the longer you do it for, also the longer you like, when you do think about it, you're like, wow, the journey's actually been really rewarding and
totally.
special. And it's fantastic to think that I have a business that people just
Yeah.
pay me money for something that I do personally.
yeah,
and
yeah.
like, that's kind of how I feel like it is.
Are you the
at
type
Heart
of
Media.
person that
Yeah.
reflect?
Yeah, I do it all the time, actually. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, constantly I have a moment where I just think about all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I
Okay.
reflect. Yeah.
So you said you started with the 14 seats,
Yeah,
but now you're at 8 seats.
correct, yeah.
What made that shift happen?
So we always wanted to be smaller, but like I was sort of describing the clientele of the area when we first opened, we weren't really sure what was going to happen. So we went with 14 when we first opened, just to make sure that we didn't go out of business,
Right.
just to make sure we could actually make some money. And then like a year or so later, we went down to 10 seats, and it was always kind of I think it was always our intention to be 8. But then when COVID happened and they brought in that, what was it?
Social distancing.
1.5
Yeah.
meter distance.
Yeah, when they brought that in, it meant that we could only have 6 people in the venue. And so we did 6 people for a while, and it was a bit quiet and weird. And so when it all went back to normal, we went, let's do 8. And it's just a really good atmosphere. It's enough that I can do it in the kitchen on my own very easily, and I'm amused. And then Lachlan can service 8 people really easily on the floor, and
very
it's
well.
not and well.
Provide amazing
That's
service.
right.
Yeah.
But have conversations, have a meaningful sort of connection with people.
Mm.
So I feel like 8's just that sort of Goldilocks
Yeah.
kind of.
What's
number.
that like in terms of financial?
Yeah, I'm so intrigued by this too.
Like it's
Yeah.
like it's a pretty challenging
Yeah.
concept.
I think if you didn't have kids, you could definitely do more days and make it work better. But I think it's just a lifestyle restaurant for us. So we don't make a lot of money. It's pretty easy to do the maths, like 4 services a week, 8 people. Sometimes we do 9 people if we squeeze a table of 3 in. And then might get wine matches or, whatever. It's not a lot of money. It's enough, though, because we're only 2 people and our overhead's quite low because we're not in Melbourne CBD. Our rent is cheaper and everything's a bit cheaper for us. But we don't make a lot of money. We make enough money to survive, but that's kind of all we want. We just want to be able to do X amount of hours at work, get enough money to pay our mortgage and pay for our kids to go to school, and we're kind of just happy.
Lifestyle gains.
It really is just a lifestyle thing.
Lifestyle gains over monetary gains.
Yeah, but if you were going to
Respect
do, there's a lot of smaller restaurants these days. Well, not a lot, but there's a few. And I think they tend to squeeze a lot more services in there, which is what you would do if you need to make more cash.
Is it something that you like maybe is in the plan for maybe some years after when the kids grow up, you'd want to do more services,
I
make
don't
some more
know.
money, or
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think, like I said, we don't tend to look too
it's your
forward
live
in the
moment
future.
thing.
I
Yeah.
think it would all just be based on how we're feeling,
Mm.
because some weeks it's like, oh, this is great, we love this, and then some weeks more challenging because of whatever, interest rates have gone up again, and the cost of living's out of control. Like it would just have to, if I have no doubt that Lachlan and I might look at each other one day and go, oh, I think we're done. I think we should do something else. Who knows? Or
Yeah.
we'll be there forever, and the kids grow up, and we go, oh, actually, why don't we just open Sundays again, or why don't we do Wednesday, or
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
Chill
time
out.
will tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of your relationship with Lachlan, I think we've talked too much about this. How has that evolved through the years? Lots of pressure, kids, the restaurant, business together. How's it? What's your relationship like, and how's it changed through the years?
So Locke and I grew up obviously working in kitchens together, and I think because of that we enjoy being around each other because we're best friends. You have like those relationships with people in kitchens. It's a camaraderie thing, and so we have a mutual respect for one another also because I've been Lachlan's boss, and but whatever. So I mean, it's obviously developed because we own a home together now and a restaurant, and we've got children, but we're still like best mates. And we
Love
call
that.
each other out,
So sweet.
If I'm being an asshole, Locke's like, being a fucking asshole.
Yes,
Stop
chef.
And if, like vice versa, like if I think he's being lazy, I'm like, you're being lazy. Like, you've got to finish that job. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think that people say it to us all the time, like, why do you spend so much time together? And it's like, well, we actually don't spend that much time together. I'm at the restaurant a lot more than Locke because he tends to be with the kids more. Like he's got to pick them up from school and do this and that, which is good because I get my time at the restaurant on my own. And then being front of house, like he can do a lot of stuff from home. He can do a lot of his ordering and wine lists and what have you. So we don't spend that much time together, but the time we do spend together, we enjoy because we're friends.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And how do you the time that you do spend together, how do you make sure that it's, I don't know, special now? Like, how do you spend that time together now?
Well, I don't know, it's hard because we've got children, you
Yeah.
know, like, we have time, date nights and stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, we just overall enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
What is Greasy Zoe?
What do you mean?
What is it? Tell us about it. Explain it to people.
The place?
The place, the food, the menu, anything from
yeah.
the heart. What is it?
Well, we're an 8-seater restaurant and we do 32 people a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm in the kitchen on my own, Lachlan's on the floor on his own, and it's just a sort of special, intimate experience. Most of the produce is sourced locally. Some of it we grow ourselves. We only do one meat course. It's predominantly vegetables. Everything's made by us. So we make all the cheese, all the ferments, all the bread, everything. We just do everything. So I suppose Greasy Zoe's is just a very intimate, special dining experience where the owners are there and you get to chat to us. People talk to me in the kitchen all the time. Like they'll be at their table and they'll be like, hey Zoe, what's this? And I'll be like, oh, it's a this and that. And they're like, oh, it's really good. I get to talk to everyone that's there and they get to talk to me and everyone gets to talk to Lachlan. So it's just like you are at our house for dinner. You have come to our home and you're having dinner at our house.
I love
and you
that.
are our guests.
So
Because
good.
8 people is just like a
Yeah, it's a dinner party.
regular
Literally.
size dinner
Yeah,
party.
there's
Do
only 10
people-
people
Even
in
a
the
big one,
venue.
yeah.
Do people start chatting together?
They
and-
do. They
Yeah.
chat amongst themselves, absolutely. And people, people will ask me questions, and then someone else will be like, "Oh, I was wondering that too." And sometimes people come in and they know each other. There'll be one table sitting down, and someone will walk through the door, and they're like, "Oh, Jeff," blah, blah, blah.
G'day.
Yeah, it's a really
So
special
cool.
sort of thing.
What's yeah? Sorry, you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't remember what I was going to say.
Okay. What's your favorite thing about Greasy Zoe?
I guess that, it's kind of like socializing for me. People walk through the door and I get to just talk to them very, openly and discuss my passion, which is food, and talk about all the ridiculously amazing people that we get the produce from. And I get to kind of like get this produce from these people in the area that are our friends that do an amazing thing, and I get to kind of put them up on a pedestal and be like, we got this from Helen grew this, and explain that to people. I don't know, there's heaps of things I like better. I like just being in the kitchen and, you know, creating stuff, being in the kitchen on my own and just doing whatever I want, and yeah, just the whole
Such a
thing.
good
It's
feeling.
really fun.
Do you still love cooking the same amount as you did when you started?
I do. Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, I really love cooking. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you do it all by yourself.
Mm.
Like, you know, usually kitchens, there's a group of people, they test, they give opinions. You do it all yourself. So, from my personal perspective, if I'm trying to make a decision about a creative decision by myself, I find it a lot harder. But if I'm doing it with like
Yeah.
the team,
Mm.
you know, it makes it a lot easier. How do you manage to make those decisions?
I'm just used to it now. I think, you know, like I'll just be I suppose I just talk to myself a lot. You know, like I'm just used to it. I've been doing it for so long. I understand what you're saying, because I also do like being able to bounce stuff off of people. Like I don't have that. Like I bounce stuff off of Lachlan, obviously, and off of friends. But I think that I just have this sort of routine with myself where I just sort of think about it. I think about the food and the ingredients just all the time. So in my head constantly, I'm just thinking about the fact that, oh, Warren's grown this corn for me. It's going to be ready in 2 weeks. When am I going to do the corn? Well, I've got all this basil, so maybe I'll do corn and basil together. Like, it's just constant. I'm just constantly thinking about it. So I think that's maybe how it works. You know, how I come up with ideas and constantly just trying things and trialing things and experimenting.
It's a bit spiritual,
I think so. Yeah,
honestly.
absolutely.
Like,
It is.
Yeah.
because I mean, you know, I mean, you could read 1,000 books, you know, but I feel like a lot of it is just like intuition and
Giving it a go. You've just got to
Yeah.
give it a go as well.
trying.
You've got to kind of trust your instincts. I think it gets to a certain point where when you've been cooking for a long time, where you know what stuff tastes like, even if you're not tasting it. Like you just know, if I put those ingredients together, it's going to taste like this. So it's kind of a little bit like a maths equation in your head. You're like, well, if I do this and this, and I put that with that, it's going to be like this. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but often it does. And I think for me, it's a bit easier because I'm around, I'm around the food all the time. Like I'm literally going to these farms and talking to these farmers. So I'm just around it all the time, which is very inspiring. So you're having conversations with the farmers about it where they're like, oh, what are you going to do with this? I'm like, well, what do you do with it? And they're like, oh, well, when I pick the padron peppers at home, I do this. So you're having the conversation with the people growing it. That's quite inspiring as well. So, yeah.
Do you miss big kitchens and
I don't think so. I mean, I used to love working in big kitchens with people. Because it's just that sort of special. It's like a club, you know, working with a big group of chefs. It's a really special, it's working with a special group of people, and you're in this sort of private club is what I reckon it's like. So I suppose to a degree I do, but I also just really enjoy being creative on my own the way I do it as well. Yeah.
How do you feel about? I feel like a lot of people think, you know, knowledge isn't knowledge unless you share it, kind of thing. And I guess you are never going to take on like an apprentice
No.
or something
Yeah.
at your restaurant. So what do you think? How do you feel about that? Is it something? Do you know what I mean? Like, because I feel like it would be so beautiful to teach your methods, because you've done so much cooking. You've got such a different style of doing things.
I like this question a
feel
lot.
about
It's a good question, and
Yeah.
Lachlan does give me a hard time about this.
Okay.
Because you do
What
think
does
about,
he say?
well, you think about hospitality, you know, like how do you get, you think about so many of the good staff in Melbourne at the moment are trained by the McConnell Group. You know, that a lot of the people in the industry are getting trained by that group because they get trained really well. So you do think about chefs and front of house, training the future, you know, and Lachlan gives me a hard time all the time. He's like, we should get an apprentice so you can train the future. And I'm like,
That'll be cute.
I can't afford it. Not enough room in the kitchen. But what I do do is I do volunteer my time 1 day a week at my daughter's primary school, and I do cooking there.
Okay.
Does that count?
That's
It
cute.
kind of does.
One day a week,
cute.
teaching
Yeah.
the 6-year-olds and the
True, and also
10-year-olds.
who knows how your career is gonna
Yeah, that's
pan
right.
out. You know what I mean? Maybe you might move
Yeah.
out of kitchens
Yeah.
hands-on and move more into consulting or advising or training or something
Yeah,
like
who
that.
knows? Yeah.
Yeah, that could be something really interesting because, I feel like one of the best parts about what we've been doing, especially this year, is getting to teach our team what we do. And it's such a rewarding experience. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like what you're doing is so great because I'm kind of picturing myself there. Like you're getting in your element every day, and you've got the kitchens just you. You can do whatever you want, but then also like maybe a tiny bit isolating because like you want to
Somewhat. Yeah, sometimes.
teach these things to other people and kind of like have someone in there like experience, like share the experience with you as well.
I think if I did it more, it would be more isolating. But I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's probably a little bit selfish. I'm selfish.
No,
I'm
you're
a selfish
Look,
person.
it is a bit selfish, but not in a bad selfish way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I enjoy it like that. It's my fucking kitchen.
Yeah.
But how is it like to work 3 days a week?
Well, I work more because I've got a small business, but we're open 3 days a week.
Okay.
So when you've got your own business, it's constant emails and book work, and I've got a big prep day that I do, and so I'm there more than 3 days.
I really like your branding, Tonight. Who does that for you?
Which
I
branding?
like your
the
photos, your
photos.
Instagram.
Christopher Paulson.
Okay.
He's a very good photographer.
He is.
Yeah, he lives in just down the road from the restaurant.
Okay.
And yes, he's a legend.
Incredible content. I really like it.
Yeah, they're
and you do
beautiful
the
photos.
socials yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. How's that going?
Oh yeah, I don't do it very often, so it's going about as well as how often I do it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And you just earned your 3rd year in a row 2 hats from the Good Food Guide, which is incredible.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
all right.
think it feels all right.
Everyone else would agree it's pretty good too.
No, I mean, it's not why we do it, but it's a nice sort of, because, we do work hard and you do sacrifice a lot. And it's a bit isolating in the kitchen on your own, but, I suppose that's a nice indication that maybe we're doing a good thing.
Do you feel like after those rewards you actually get attention or like busier when you get those like recognition every now and then?
I don't know. We're so small. It's hard to tell. Maybe a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because like you're already busy kind of all the time and okay. I get that. Because if you're like 100-seater, you'll have
Totally.
more
You would
numbers.
feel the difference. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. But I mean, we're still busy. We still continue to be busy. So I
Yeah.
suppose that means that, yes, it is probably doing something. Yeah.
You're one of the first micro restaurants in Melbourne. Yeah? Or
Yeah.
like the first one, maybe?
I think maybe the first.
Right.
Yeah.
So you did it first.
Yes, let's say that.
Yeah.
I did it first. I'll get the t-shirt. Yeah.
It's incredible because like last year, this year's winner is Shy, and she has that.
6-seater. Yeah.
So that's incredible. Like it's an incredible win for the whole
I think so.
concept.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have like any relation to them? You guys are like part of the micro restaurant crew?
I mean,
Facebook group,
The
micro
gang.
restaurant.
not really. I mean, recently we sent them a message because our farmer had too many wombok, and we were like, we know where you can send those wombok to these people that do lots of fermenting in Cockatoo.
Yeah.
They've been into the restaurant, which is nice. We haven't been into theirs because it's too hard to get into. I suppose it's like a bit of a small restaurant community. Like we kind of like help each other out, and there's a bit of respect, for the small guys, the
Yeah.
independence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
So nice.
Do you have like a plan for maybe the evolution of the restaurant, or to like
No.
just living in the moment?
I think we're just living in the moment, and
yeah.
like I said before, like if something needs to change, we'll know. Or if we want to change something, we'll know. Like something will happen.
And you just change it.
We'll just change it. Yeah.
The beauty of it.
Yeah.
So good.
Look, I can't help it. When I think of Greasy, I imagine a burger.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Do you like burgers?
Yeah, burgers are okay. It feels a little bit like a waste of a meal to me, but I do like a burger.
Okay.
It's like soup.
Now, look, we do have a fantasy question
Oh, okay.
that we like to ask our guests.
Okay, right.
Everyone's reaction, like I laugh every single episode because everyone's reaction to the fantasy question is so funny, and I keep saying it as well, but I can't stop.
Time, place don't exist. Dead, alive. You can pick anything, chef, cyclist, anything you would like. Who would you like to collaborate with and why?
Oh, I have no idea. So I'm not a chef.
No, you can be. I'm saying
I can be whatever I
you
want,
can do
and I
any
can
type of
collaborate with.
in any way.
Oh, I would be a musician,
Yeah.
and I would collaborate with Jack White
Okay.
because I literally saw him the other day at the forum, and he was excellent.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you love
Okay.
him. What kind of musician would you be?
Well, I have a lot of hobbies. I don't know if you have many chefs on here that love hobbies,
No,
but I've got
there's-
lots
I think
of
a lot
hobbies.
of chefs love hobbies.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think you need hobbies.
Yeah.
Tell us about your hobbies.
And one of my hobbies is playing guitar.
Okay.
And I've got a
Speaking of, can we get?
yeah, so I don't know, I'd be a musician and I'd collaborate with
Play
musicians.
guitar.
Yeah.
What are your other hobbies?
I play guitar, I garden, what else do I do?
Do you do much cooking?
Oh, yeah, I've got a lot of food hobbies.
Yeah.
I do pottery.
Awesome.
And then I obviously do this teaching once a week at my daughter's school. Yeah, just heaps of stuff.
So
That's
cute.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, what's the future looking like for you and your?
Oh, who knows?
Who knows?
Only time will tell. I have no idea.
Day by day.
Day by day, yeah, that's
You
right.
told us before you got your daughter some pretty weird Christmas presents.
Yes.
Weird, different
Yeah,
Christmas
yeah, yeah.
presents. A whittling knife
Yes.
and a felt
Oh, a needle felting kit.
needle felting kit, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
How do they where's this coming from?
Oh,
I
so
had to
I
ask.
mean they're bush kids, and my daughter goes to a very alternative school. It's a cooperative, child-led learning school,
Okay.
which means that a cooperative is where the parents run the school. And we literally are in charge of the finances and the hiring of the staff, and we are staff as well. So we're
No
all
way.
volunteers.
It's such a crazy concept.
Yeah. So there's
yeah.
34 kids. So it's tiny school, and Lachlan and I are sort of there all the time teaching, and it's child-led learning, which means that you teach them according to what they want to learn. So, for example, if Quinn is really into needle felting, you go, okay, yeah, I can teach you how to needle felt, but I need to figure out how to weave the curriculum into this. Like, what's the Victorian curriculum and what is needle felting doing? Oh, well, it's teaching you sensory skills and it's teaching you about this and it's teaching you about that. So yeah, and they do a lot of whittling there. So they make like for example, we did a survival day recently where they had to make their own tools and they had to cook food on the fire. and-
Making things.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Cool.
So it's an alternative school, child-led learning, and we work there.
Is that like before primary school or
That
it
is primary school.
That's
yeah.
their primary school.
Yeah,
That's
so
their
she's
primary
in
school.
prep. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it goes all the way up to grade 6.
Yep.
That's crazy. But
Yeah.
like you keep in mind the curriculum.
Yes. Well, we have to teach the
Yeah,
curriculum.
yeah.
And as parents, part of the co-op, we're all in charge of this school. So we have meetings every week and we discuss the finances
Oh,
and such wants to
so
buy
cute.
musical equipment and do we have the money for
I
that
love
and
it.
what are the excursions going to be and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's really full on.
I love
So
it.
that's another hobby, I suppose.
It's kind of like running an entire another business.
It's literally like another business. Yeah, that's right. And we do Locke and I do lots of food. like I try and what's the word? Like we try and make money for the school, so we run lots of food things. We do like pizza nights and we do events and
So
yeah,
cute.
yeah,
That's crazy.
I
And
love
then from like year 7 onwards, they're gonna go to high school.
yeah, yeah. That's right.
That's I've never heard of this before. It's really
Yeah,
interesting.
it's really cool, and we get to hang out there with our
Yeah,
daughter.
with
So
the kids all
instead
the
of sort of like what we were discussing before, a lot of people are like, "Ugh, go to school. I don't
Yeah.
have to see you all day." We're like, we hang out there
Yeah.
with that child.
So community goals tick.
Another community thing, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, super cool.
Incredible episode.
This has been unreal.
Honestly, thank you so much for
We
sharing.
both, I think, we're on the same level, finding you so incredibly endearing.
Or just a weirdo.
So
And so
good.
animated and just like great to talk to. Honestly,
Yeah,
it's been
good.
so fun.
Yeah, it has been fun.
Thank
yeah,
you so
good.
much for
Oh,
coming on.
too easy.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add before we wrap it? Or
Come and eat at my restaurant.
Guys, eat at the
Please.
restaurant. Oh, but just
Us
quickly, actually,
included.
something that I did want to ask before we go.
Yeah.
Greasy Zoe is the name. Where did it come
Um,
from?
Oh, do you know that's a question I've never been asked?
Really?
No, people ask all the time. Every single day. So why is it called Greasy Zoes? I don't know. Like it's just so when I was a kid, I obviously enjoyed cooking, but I also did a lot of baking competitions. We didn't get into this. I was like a real I did baking competitions as a child. Like the Royal Melbourne Show and stuff like that. I just did baking competitions. And I was very competitive and I used to do very well.
Did you win?
I used to win all the time. And I used to win a lot of money too. So it was like money prizes, which is probably why I did it.
You're a beast.
Yeah, it was hilarious. And I did it from like the age of 8 to 17, I think. So I did it
No
for
way.
ages. And my mum used to joke that one day she would work in my diner called Greasy Zoe's Cafe and Diner. And I don't know. So when Lachlan and I were like looking for a venue, whenever we would come across a place, we'd be like, oh, we just call it Greasy Zoe's just for fun. And then I think when we had to, naming a restaurant is a little bit like naming a child. It's actually really difficult.
It's so difficult.
It's so hard. And Locke was like, let's just call it Greasy Zoe's. And I was like, no, it's horrible. It's greasy. No one wants to come to a fancy restaurant with greasy in the name. And he was like, fuck it. Who cares? It's not important. And so we did. We just named it Greasy Zoe's. And you know what? It's actually not important. And I have no doubt that people think it's stupid. And I don't care because it's easy to remember.
I reckon it's so good.
Very
nice.
What the hell?
You know,
Stick
so
name.
that
Greasy
is
Zoe.
literally the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I love it. I'm surprised you didn't get into become a baker.
It is funny because I do
chef.
enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just kind of wanted to learn it all. So I didn't want to like just do baking
Well,
and
it sounds
just do
fantastic.
pastry.
You're quite like well-rounded now as a chef,
Yeah.
right? 'Cause you're doing both. All
We
your
do it
baked
all,
goods,
yeah,
and
that's
your
right, yeah.
Restaurant must be amazing.
Catch Zoe at the Breaking Bread event
yeah.
in Melbourne Food and Wine as well for some nice bread.
And hot tip, you can catch Zoe at her restaurant, Greasy Zoe's.
That's true.
She's
I'll be
also
there.
there.
I'm always there every night. I think people would be disappointed if I wasn't there.
I would be.
All right. Thank you, Zoe.
That's
No worries. It was good.
Legend.
Cheers. That was good.
Thank you. Awesome.
Did you slate it?